Hello, love. I am so glad that you are here with us today. And I want you to know that I do not take it lightly that you pressed play on this episode. Because if you are anything like me or like the women that I talk to every day, you're probably carrying a lot. Maybe you're tired, not just physically tired, but like that soul deep kind of exhaustion. You're probably feeling defeated, maybe confused or discouraged, like you've been trying to do everything right, but somehow you still feel stuck, or you feel like you're backtracking. I'm curious if that sounds familiar for you, because it definitely sounds familiar for me. I went from being in a clinic and seeing patients to being bedridden for almost a year, seemingly overnight, and worked my way back into a healthy life again. So maybe you have caught yourself thinking lately the things that I used to think, right? I've tried everything. I've tried a bunch of different supplements. I've tried sleeping more. I've tried taking naps. I've tried more caffeine. I've tried mindset work. I've tried therapy, somatic tools. I've tried changing my diet. So why do I still feel this way? Or you're thinking, well, what am I even doing wrong? Right? And if you are thinking those things, I want you to know you are not behind. Your body is not broken or damaged. You are not messing it up, and you are not failing at healing. What you're feeling makes a lot of sense, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you are doing something wrong. It means that your body is trying to recover and heal, and that it's that real deep nervous system level healing that isn't linear. It never was, and it never will be. And it comes in cycles. So let's start there, right? We are taught to think of healing like a staircase, right? One step at a time. And with every step, you're going up and up and up. And then you reach the top of the stairs and poof, you're better, right? You've reached that end goal and everything's back to normal or wherever you're wanting to be. But that is not how it works. It's not how it worked for me, and it's not how it works for clients that I have or my colleagues' clients and patients either. When you are dealing with chronic stress, with burnout, with trauma, with years of dysregulation, healing isn't going to move in a straight line, right? It is going to move in loops, in cycles, in seasons. So you might have a really good day or a really good week or even a really good month if you're further out in your healing journey. And maybe you're sleeping better, you're feeling more energized, and then suddenly you just crash, right? And it feels like it came out of nowhere. You were doing all these things and then boom, things that haven't triggered you in a while started triggering you. And then you can't get out of bed, or maybe you can't get off the couch, or you're dealing with a lot of chronic pain again, or anxiety, or food sensitivities. Maybe you're crying over something that didn't really seem like a big deal yesterday. Or you just feel overwhelmed and overstimulated by everything. And that's when you start to think, oh no, I'm back at square one, right? But you're not at square one. What is happening is that you are revisiting something that your body is ready to process. And it's ready to process that because it feels safer than it used to. So think of healing as more of climbing a spiral staircase than just a straight one. So you're gonna pass that same scenery over and over again, right? The fatigue, the sadness, the food sensitivities, the palpitations, the anxiety. But each time you start to pass all of that, you're seeing it from a different height, from a different angle, right? You're reaching new layers and you're going to deeper places in your recovery journey. And you can also picture it like the seasons, right? We don't just go from winter straight into summer, right? There's that slow thaw, and your days don't increase in temperature in a straight line, right? Sometimes you might have a colder day, then a warmer day, then a colder day, and then a streak of warmer days. Spring kind of stumbles forward before it really hits and starts to bloom, right? And before we get into summer. And your nervous system works the same way. It does not flip a switch immediately from survival to safety. It wants to dip its toes in. It doesn't want to dive in head first. It wants to explore and then take a few steps back and make sure that, okay, well, it is safe. Let's see how I feel again. So it comes back again, a little bit stronger each time. And I get it. I've been there. I know it can be frustrating. I know it can be confusing, especially if you are someone who is used to figuring things out, someone who performs and plans and pushes through, someone who is smart and resourceful and always trying to do better or help everyone else. I promise you, I see you. Like I have been there, right? And I want to say something that might feel a bit tender, but I definitely needed to hear it when I was in the thick of it. If you are a high achiever, or if you are deeply sensitive and you've spent most of your life trying to get it right, there's a good chance that you've been performing healing instead of receiving it, right? And I want you to let that sink in. The difference between performing and actually receiving that healing. Because there are so many of us, especially women, who have been taught that worth is tied to effort. It's tied to progress. It's tied to productivity. So when we start our journey, we start to bring that mindset with us, right? We try to optimize our healing. We try to hack it, to stay ahead of it, to turn it into a checklist. Okay, well, I did the breath work this morning. I ate all the right foods today. I took the adaptogens at the same time. I journaled every day. I rested. I took naps. Check, 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 right? And don't get me wrong, these tools matter, right? I used these tools in my own healing journey, and I have helped other women use those tools through theirs as well. But healing isn't something that you can force your way through, that you can push through. Your nervous system doesn't respond to pressure well, right? It wants safety. So that is what it's going to respond best to. And sometimes the hardest thing that you can do is slow down enough to let yourself be held by the process, to slow down enough to be, to exist. And I know that is where it gets tricky, right? Because a lot of us who have been in that survival mode for years or for decades, it feels dangerous, right? To slow down, to stop. We get restless. We always have to be doing something. Why? Because trauma and chronic stress and high functioning burnout teach our body that slowing down is risky. It's dangerous, it's unproductive, it's lazy. And it teaches us that if we are not moving, we are falling behind. And all of that fear, all of that old wiring can be very, very loud, right? And it can show up like, well, if I stop pushing, I'll lose all the progress I made. Well, if I take a break, I'll never get better. If I'm not doing something right now, I'm wasting time. I want to know if any of that sounds familiar to you, because it definitely does to me. And I want you to know if it does sound familiar, that is not you failing. That is your nervous system trying to protect you in the best way that it knows how, which is urgency, perfectionism, and overfunctioning. But then you also have the inner critic, right? You have that voice in your head that starts to whisper more things like, well, you should be past this by now. You're the only one that's struggling. Everyone else is doing better. And that's ruthless, right? You're kicking yourself when you're down, especially when you're already depleted. Well, your inner critic is, right? But that voice, that inner critic is not the truth. It is a coping strategy, an old survival pattern. It is your nervous system attempting to keep you alert, to keep you performing, and to keep you productive. It thinks it's protecting you, and in a weird way, it is trying to help, but you don't have to listen to it, right? You don't have to obey it. You can notice it, soften towards it, and still choose something different. So let's talk about something that throws off a lot of us, that myself included when I was healing, and a lot of the women that I work with. And that is the moments when it feels like you've lost all your progress, right? And I know you know the ones that I'm talking about. Maybe you had a few good days or weeks, or maybe even a few good months if you're further in your recovery. Your energy was coming back, you were sleeping throughout the night, no more brain fog, less food sensitivities, maybe no palpitations, and dare I say you felt normal for a couple of days. Maybe even like yourself again. And then all of a sudden you crash. You can't think straight, you're overwhelmed, you're oversensitive, lights and sounds are overstimulating you. Every little comment someone makes sends you into a further spiral. Your body hurts, you're back in bed, and you just wonder why everyone else seems to be thriving while you are completely coming undone. And when you're in that moment, what happens? Your brain starts to say things like, I knew it. I'm not trying hard enough. What did I do wrong? Well, this means it's not working. I'm back to square one. But I need you to listen to me. And this is so important. When these moments happen, you are not back at square one. You are not broken, and you are not losing ground, and you are not doing something wrong. Your body's not falling apart. It is feeling safe enough to feel. See, when we've lived in survival mode, our bodies aren't going to flip a switch, like I said earlier. They have to ease into it. And sometimes the moment that things start to feel safe is exactly when those old stored stress, all of that starts to come up to the surface. And that's not regression. That is your nervous system saying, okay, we can let this come up now. She has more capacity. She's safer than she used to be. So let's talk about a client that I had. Her name, we'll call her Elise. That's not her real name for privacy reasons, but we'll just call her Elise. She had been working with me for a few months, and she was starting to feel like herself again, right? She was going out to lunch with friends. She was playing with her grandkids. She was starting to go she went on a tour in Italy. Like, she was having so much fun doing all these things that she couldn't do before she got sick. She was having less food reactions. She was starting to feel joy and clarity and like enjoying life again. And then all of a sudden she texted me, completely panicked one day. And she's like, I just slept for 13 hours. I still feel like I've been hit by a truck. I'm so anxious. I can't breathe. I was doing so well. What is happening? But what was happening was not a failure. It was her nervous system recalibrating, right? Her body finally felt safe enough to stop bracing. And when it stopped bracing, all of that deferred fatigue, all of the emotional debris, all of the stored survival stress that had been frozen in her system was starting to thaw. And it was messy, right? And it was uncomfortable, but it wasn't wrong. Her nervous system wasn't falling apart. It was just reorganizing. And sure enough, within about a week, something shifted. And her crashes were less intense. She felt like her anxiety was lessening, like it wasn't swallowing her whole again, and she felt lighter. And that's what integration looks like, right? It comes in cycles, in waves. And I know it is one thing to understand this on paper, and it's another thing to live it when you're in the thick of it. When your heart is pounding and you can't get up, or your chest is tight, or you're spiraling in that self-doubt, or if you're sobbing in the shower, the last thing you want to hear is, this is a good sign. So let's get practical with it, and let's talk about how you can support yourself through these hard moments. Not with pushing harder, not with perfectionism, but with presence and with softness. So there are 3 areas that I start to lean into when healing feels like it's going backwards for my clients. And that is reframing, regulating, and softening. So the way that you talk to yourself during a crash matters more than you think. So when you start to spiral into those thoughts of shame and doubt and guilt, your nervous system hears all of that, right? And it thinks, oh no, we're in danger again. And then you trigger that whole stress loop, right? It gets reactivated every single time, every single thought. So you want to try a new script. So here are a few phrases that you can try to rewrite that old programming when those shame spirals start to appear. This is not a failure. This is a deeper layer surfacing. My body isn't punishing me. It's protecting me. I don't have to be okay to be healing. Even this is a part of my healing spiral. Now, what I did for my journey was I wrote them on sticky notes. I had some in my bathroom on the mirror, and then I had some in my bedroom on my nightstand. So, it kind of depended on what phase that I was on, whether it was a bedridden or couch-bound phase. But you can speak these out loud when you are maybe sitting in the car after a hard appointment, or if you are sitting on the couch after a crash or a flare-up. Just let those words anchor you when you feel like those thought spirals are coming on. When your nervous system is overwhelmed, I know a lot of us can tend to want to fix it as though it's a problem, but we don't need to fix it. What we need to do is to co-regulate with it. So here are some tools that I've used and that I use with my clients to feel that co-regulation when that dysregulation starts to hit. So we want to stimulate the vagus nerve, and there are a few ways that we can do that simply. So placing your hand over your heart and just humming. Whatever your favorite song is, pick it, start to hum it. Place your hand over your chest, close your eyes for less visual overstimulation, and just hum gently. And that vibration actually activates the vagus nerve and starts to send signals of safety to your brain, to that lizard brain that we were talking about, right? So what I tended to do when I got more so into my couch-bound phase, when I was having like 6 or 7 panic attacks in a day in the beginning, I would keep ice packs stored in my freezer, and when I felt one coming on, or if I was in the middle of one, I would quickly get a deep bowl, fill it with water, put those 2 ice packs in it, and then dunk my face into the ice water. Ice baths and cold showers were too intense for me, so this was a way that I used to kind of compromise that was a little more gentle, but still brought my body back to the present. Another one that's very simple that you can do from the bed is rocking or swaying. So think of a mom with a newborn baby kind of rocking in a rocking chair, right? That rhythm signals safety to our nervous system. That's what puts that baby to sleep, right? It feels relaxed, it feels safe, and so it falls asleep. So you can do this standing up or sitting down. You can sway side to side. You can rock forwards or backwards. And if you are someone who's more bedridden, you can lay face up or face down and just kind of barely move your body, right? And just kind of rock your body a little bit side to side. It doesn't even have to be an inch. If you can't do that yet, that's okay. We make progress over time, right? So that rhythm is going to teach your body that you're not frozen, that you're safe. Lastly, orienting. So you want to not overstimulate yourself and reground yourself to interrupt those spirals. So name 3 things that you can see, 2 things that you can hear, and 1 thing that you can feel. Now, I know a lot of these sound very simple, but they are very powerful when your body is in that stress loop. So remember, your nervous system wants to respond to safety and sensation, not necessarily to logic. And these small acts are like little notes to your body saying, hey, we're okay now. We don't have to fight so hard. And lastly, I know this one can be harder. It was for me at least, especially if you guys are someone who overthinks everything. When your thoughts start to spin, we need to start to ask ourselves a few soft questions to soften our mind, right? Not to solve the problem, but to listen. So the next time you start to spiral or your thoughts start to feel overwhelming, I want you to ask yourself, what part of me is scared to feel better? I know that can be a bit of a triggering question and it can surprise people, but sometimes healing feels unfamiliar, right? And that unfamiliar can feel unsafe. So let that part of you speak openly. You can also ask, what would feel nourishing right now? Not necessarily productive, but nourishing. So what does your body need? Maybe it needs a nap. Maybe it needs a bowl of soup. Maybe it needs for you to turn off your phone for a little while. Maybe it wants to watch a comforting show that you've seen 1,000 times and you can quote every single line like me in TVD. That's not avoidance. That is your nervous system trying to regulate itself. Then you can also ask, well, what has shifted? Even if it's a tiny little shift, what has shifted? Maybe you noticed your tension sooner. Maybe you reached out for help instead of isolating. Maybe you found this video. Maybe you named what you were feeling. All of those things count, right? We tend to be so quick to minimize our small wins, but our nervous systems absolutely thrive on that, right? Think about running a marathon. When people run marathons, they still get snacks and water and electrolytes, right? Your little small wins are like those snacks and electrolytes. They keep you fueled throughout your journey. They make it less painful, right? They make it that they're like these little packets of relief for you. So try to focus on those wins, even if they feel small. Don't minimize them. So let me also tell you something that took me a very, very long time to understand, and I mean years. You don't have to feel good to be healing, to be making progress, to be recovering. And some of the most powerful parts of your healing journey happen when it looks like everything's falling apart. When you're crying, when you're resting, when you feel like your emotions are overwhelming, when they're surfacing after being numb for years. That is not regression, that is release. So the next time that your body crashes or your brain spirals or your heart feels too tender to carry, try to reframe the moment with kindness, regulate your body gently, and soften your mind with curiosity. That is what helped me get through. That is what helped push me back to, I say push, gently push, right? Not diving off the deep end push. It motivated me and helped guide me to my own healing journey. I do want to thank you for being here with us today for this episode, and to thank you for being here for yourself and for showing up for you as well. If you are wanting a further supportive episode, we do have EFT sessions on our YouTube channel, which help you to address different limiting beliefs and negative thought patterns, where we acknowledge them, we give them space to exist, and then we gently try to reframe them, right? And to rewrite that old programming that we kind of develop over years of hypervigilance and stress and burnout. And we also do have a free community and Discord that I will link below if you are looking for more of a community co-regulation styled support. And if you are wanting to work with me one-on-one, that is also offered on our website at bloominwell.com. So until next time, be gentle with yourself and keep bloomin' well.